Oh, hey there. Sorry, I'm just putting on the last layer, last little bit of moisturizer. That is the key to looking great this old. It's just moisturizer. By the way, if you're a moisturizer company, feel free to reach out. Anyway, welcome to SmartLess.
SmartLess.
Take some agents in your life.
2007 was done with that? They let you use it for a while?
Let me just say that it was a good time. Welcome to SmartLess.
By the way, that's the second time in 3 days I've heard you use the term agency. It is a great term. I'm glad that somebody smarter in your life has used it clearly around you, and you're like, that sounds intelligent. I'll co-opt that.
No, I'm not like you. I don't need to grab words. I've been familiar with this word for a long time.
I've never heard you use it before.
I use it all the time. Here's the other one. You weren't there at dinner last night.
Oh, you weren't? I wasn't there either.
You weren't there either. And I used
Why
the term,
weren't you there, Sean?
I had a previous business dinner scheduled.
Got it.
Sean, business dinner. A previous dinner, business dinner, as opposed to this business dinner. It wasn't business last night. It was personal, okay?
I know.
Here,
How was
I get
it?
mad.
But what did I do? What did I do? Did you get a little something?
You sent cookies. Or
Yeah, that's right.
You sent cookies.
In my absence.
Can I just say this? And I don't want to seem unappreciative. Don't say it.
Say it. 3, 2, 1, go.
Tasteless.
The cookies?
Yeah.
Wait, but I feel like we interrupted. You're about to say something hurtful to me about your newfound
Dry
vocabulary.
Dry and tasteless. I used to have words years ago. I used to say to Jason, we had phone conversations, and I would say to him, "You can't use these words." And then I would I'd write them down on a piece of paper. Do you remember that back in the old days?
I sure fucking don't.
What, just in life you can't use these words? Are you searching for the words, or?
Listener, he's looking at...
No, I would put on Do Not Disturb because I noticed that my I was getting an email.
I gotta do that too.
So anyway,
was it an email from the site Word of the Day?
No, again, that's not my issue.
You know what I mean?
No, it's pronunciation.
So yesterday, but this is on topic. So we were having dinner, and we were talking about something, and Jimmy, our good friend Jimmy Burrows was sitting to my right. Yeah, last night. Jimmy and Deb came, and Jason's wife Amanda was there and his daughter, and so anyway, so I was able to fill the role of, Amanda's husband very easily.
Yeah.
And she said, "You're going over the boundaries. You're doing too much already." She said. So, but I used the expression. I said, and somebody they go there, and I guess back in the day, it was de rigueur too, and they were like,
Ew.
What's de rigueur? What's that? Ew. What
de
is
rigueur. Like to be, like the established, like to do, it's the expected
You
thing.
said that last night?
But yeah, it's not an unusual term.
Yes, it is.
Coming out of your mouth,
I've
it is.
never heard of
What
it.
are you talking about?
De rigueur.
Never heard you say it before. You don't really speak like an intelligent guy, and I mean that with all the respect it sounds like.
Listen. I don't need to cut and paste words, okay? Because I've read more this week than you have in your life. Give me a goddamn
It's
break.
true. You do read a lot, and that is why it's surprising
Who's
that
got
you.
time?
No, he's sneaky smart. People are always surprised.
Anyway, but it was surprising to me that word generated a lot of sideways glances.
Also, wait, by the way, my niece is in town, Tracy's daughter, Mackenzie.
Yes,
She's here right now. She's staying here.
Okay.
Anyway.
I saw her.
So, like last night.
It makes a lot of sense. So why you'd follow up with that? Yeah.
No, but I wanted to get that out because you were like, where were you last night?
Oh.
I had the business dinner, and also my niece is here.
Okay.
But I know what you mean, Jason. It did look like he was looking up on his computer, like, here are my talking points.
Yeah, what were the things I was going to talk about? Oh, yeah, this. No. So
Sean's new talking points that we both think is
Oh, my niece is here.
So you had a business dinner on a Sunday night. Was it fruitful?
It was great. I love those guys, Travis and Oli. Oh, by the way.
Well, by the way, it might have been fruitful, but I can guarantee you one thing. It was not full of fruit. I can guarantee you that.
What did you
Wait
do
a minute. Wait a minute. Oli
What'd you do with your niece while you were at this business dinner? This.
Wait, I want to say this one thing. Will, you'll love this. One of my friends is Oli Mickelson, who just got inducted into the UCLA Hall of Fame for soccer.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's very cool.
And so I had dinner with him and another friend, Travis.
Oh, I know he did have dinner because you know what I did do? This is true. Sean backed me up. Within the last 3 days, I FaceTimed with Sean and he was at Koi.
I was with David Spade. With David Spade.
Well, he was there, but
he was there. Yeah.
It was pretty.
Did the soccer guy smell like icy cold, like liniment? A lot of soccer players smell like muscle relaxing cream.
They do.
They smell just fine.
What was your niece doing during your big deals dinner?
She was here for a wedding, and then she tried to. I told her how the back door worked.
Hey,
and,
keep it clean.
man,
We got a
what
real
the fuck,
respectable
dude?
guest, I'll bet.
She's just a kid.
Yeah.
No, but then she, because she didn't know how the lock works, so I got a call at like
Again,
2 in the
please.
morning. Yeah.
Oh, hey, wait. I'm sorry, Jason. What?
Nothing.
What did you say? What did he
He's
say?
talking with his mouth full. Remember, he used to give me shit. Look at him right
Yes.
now.
Well, I wasn't in the middle of a story taking a bite.
Oh my God. This is
so
the
gross.
height of hypocrisy.
You know what I'm eating right now?
What?
No, guess what I'm eating? A Think Bar. You know, what I'm enjoying right now,
If you could breathe through your nose
what
while
I'm
you're
enjoying
eating,
right
that
now
makes
is
it
the
worse.
chocolate and cream cupcake flavor. 18 grams of protein, 2 grams of sugar.
Oh, man, you saved yourself another $150 when they send you a couple boxes. Huh? Way to go. Way
They're
to,
the nicest in the world.
way to set the Think Bar high, you fucking dummy. All right, so
I
here
was
we go.
almost late today driving to the house in my
Today?
new. No, I just want to mention a car brand real quick.
Your new Hyundai.
Yeah. Any other pre-guest chatter, you guys?
No.
Oh, I
Well,
could go on and on.
He could go on and on, but you know what? Our guest doesn't deserve to have to sit here and listen to our because we got a good show. In fact, this is going to be a great one.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We will see.
We'll see.
I'm crossing my fingers.
And you'll notice the expression that I use. You know, there are a few people who excel at what they do.
Thank you.
In, whatever discipline. There are always people who do a lot of, who do it well. But it's rare that you have people who dominate in a way that is like unlike anybody else has dominated in whatever their discipline is in the arts.
Don't you sometimes
in
just
sport,
want to
in
get right to the
business or
guest?
whatever? I do, but this one deserves a little bit of a preamble because this, to me, this person has consistently for decades went far and above and far and beyond what anybody had ever done before them and since. I'm a little bit nervous right now. My palms are a little, even though I know this
Is this the
person.
guy that wins the hot dog eating contest every year?
This is, it's the equivalent of that, but times 100, and he did it it's like he did it every year for 25 years. If you told 8, 9, 10 to 25 to 40-year-old me that we'd be sitting here today having this person on our show, I'd call you a liar because I would be too in awe and too nervous to even talk about it.
Wayne Gretzky.
My great love of my life is hockey.
Oh my
and this
God, no
man
way.
did more
Did I
for
just
hockey.
call it?
What?
It's
Did I just call it?
It's the great one. It's Wayne Gretzky.
I got it.
Hey, what?
Wow.
I know who you are.
Wayne, I've never called it
I
before.
totally know who you are.
Sorry, I'm not the hot dog eating guy. I was getting disappointed in myself when I heard that.
Oh my
Nice to be on your show.
Wow. Nice to have
pleasure.
you on the show.
wild.
We had Will on TNT a long time ago, and I said, okay, I really want to do your show.
Yeah.
I really want to be on it. Love all three of you guys, and
God, that
I'm
must
glad I'm
have
here.
So nice.
Exploded Will's mind.
It totally
wild.
exploded my mind. Well, even more so, Wayne, they put me in net. They let me hold a goalie stick and a glove and a blocker, and Wayne took a couple shots on me, which was an
Did he get one through? Did he get
Yeah,
one
he
through?
got a couple through. Don't worry.
When was
Yeah,
that?
I'm a little rusty, a little old. 61. I don't quite have the hands that I used to have when I was younger.
He did okay.
Do you think that? Do you think there's any chance? Because I know we share a passion for golf. Any chance you think you could ever get, let's say, halfway as good as you were in hockey in golf?
Not a chance.
No,
2 reasons.
because you
One,
were so good at hockey. That's
no,
why.
no. But you have to practice, right? And every day when I go to the course, Dustin will say to me, "Let's go to the range, sir." And I'm always like, "Dustin, I am what I am.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get any better. I hope I don't get worse. But if you become an elite athlete or whatever sport you're in, the hours of hard work and practice that goes into that,
Yeah.
exactly what you guys do too. You don't just do it overnight. It takes a lot of commitment. And I don't have that commitment for golf, but I have the love for it because it's
Right.
enjoyable.
Yeah. And Sean, he's talking about, Wayne's talking about his son-in-law, Dustin Johnson, who's one of the top-ranked golfers in the world, in and out of being number one at various points, and he's just a phenomenal major winner, et cetera, who we actually, Wayne, one of the times, Jason and I ran into you and Janet playing golf, I guess about 6 months ago, but one other time we saw Dustin, he was practicing where we were playing, and I hit my shot off the fairway into the practice area, and I came through the trees, and I see him there, and I said, hey, DJ, just hit my shot. Nobody can see you from here. Just put it on the green. Put it on the green.
It was a par 5. You would have been there in 2.
I just wanted to hear Jason from the fairway going, what a shot, Arnett.
Yeah, I was, I guess, thrilled that you guys had enough guts to get in front of him, because I still get nervous playing with him. And I'm like, wow, these guys, all right, good for them. And the way you guys went.
Yeah, because he's a big dude.
Oh, he's just intimidating, but he's so nice. You know, he's one of those guys, he just has a love for the game. And if he plays with a beginner or a 10 handicap or with his boys, he has the patience of a saint. He just truly loves the game. And that's something really special. You either have that or you don't, and he has that. He gets frustrated, I think, playing with me because I'm not very good. But I remember we played at Pebble one year, and he told me on the second hole, he said, hit your 3-wood, sir. And I go, no, let me hit 9-iron, that long par 5, number 2. And there's all these people around the green because we're playing with Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson, and I was playing with Jake Owen, the 4 of us. And I'm like, Dustin, the worst thing I can do is be 80 yards out. I can't be 80 yards out. And sure enough, I was 79 yards out. And I sculled a sand wedge, and I hit this poor lady right here.
No.
I couldn't play for 2 holes. And I was like, okay, this is my last year I'm going to play in this event. It's too hard playing in front of people.
Did you give her the ball?
Yeah, I gave her the ball. I signed a glove. I got her a drink. I was getting her anything she wanted. And thankfully, she had glasses on. It kind of stopped at her. It really would have left a mark. And it kind of hit her glasses, and it kind of hit her at the right spot, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. It's so hard playing in front of people.
Will's about to experience that. I've done it before, but Willie hasn't. We're doing the Pebble in February.
Will, let me tell you something. Your knees will be shaking.
Yeah. Especially when the cameraman runs up and gets behind you in the middle of the fairway with his shoulder camera.
But Jason, we did it last year when we played what was that?
Genesis?
The Genesis. Yeah, we played the Genesis out here at Riviera.
That one's not bad because there's not as many people.
That's right.
You're going to play Pebble. There's going to be 25,000 people there. And let me tell you, if you hit a bad shot, they let you know about it. You hit a good shot, they let you know about it.
Now, did I hear you say that Dustin calls you sir?
Yeah, he's a very respectful young man.
Does that?
I want Jason to call me sir. That would be great.
Well, I'm not sleeping with your daughter. Now, what kind of son-in-law is he?
Oh, he's the best.
Is he?
There's an old saying in golf: when you hit a bad shot, you call it a son-in-law, and people say, "What does that mean?" You say, "That's not quite what I had in mind." And I'm the opposite. My son-in-law is the best. He's great to his kids. He's a good father.
Oh, that's cool.
He's a wonderful guy. And we moved down here a couple years ago to Florida so we could be by the 2 grand boys. And my other son, he has a little daughter who's 1-year-old little girl.
Oh, cool.
So we're all within 7 minutes driving together. It's worked out really nicely. When he travels, they're in Asia right now. I think they're in Bangkok. So the kids, the 2 boys, are able to stay with Janet and I. So at least somebody's here.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so it's worked out really nicely. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy.
Has he given you any tips that you can use in your golf game?
Oh, yeah. He's incredible because if he played with you, you'd be amazed at how much he's a golf savant. I tell people this all the time. He's truly a savant. He knows what kind of grass it is, how thick it is, how much soil's underneath the grass, which way the greens are breaking. I always say to him, why don't you have somebody help you read greens? He goes, why? I'm number 1 in the world. If I can't read them, who can? Yeah. And I said, well, good point. Yeah. But, he helps me all the time. I don't go up to the range, though. I don't practice. But when we're on the course, he'll give me little pointers, little tidbits. But he does to everybody he's playing with. He loves it. Truly.
Wayne, Jason's so jealous. He won't stop at. We could fill the whole hour with golf questions.
Yeah, I apologize.
But sadly, we've got Wayne Gretzky here, who
hockey.
We want to talk. First of all, Wayne, as I probably told you, but like as you know, and as a boy from Toronto, hockey is just the love of my life, like it is for you. My relationship with it is much different. I'm an observer. But for me, I can remember. I mean, Sean, you even said, I love the way you said, like, I know who you are. Like, Sean is not a huge sports fan, but he's just like, oh my God, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, this is blowing my mind.
I can, as a kid, I can remember my first earliest memories of hockey. And if you're a Canadian kid, it's so rich, eh? Like that relationship between you and hockey and what it means to you is more than just the game. It's about your family and all that kind of stuff. So I have those memories, playing at the first outdoor rink at the end of my street, whatever, going to games, being nervous the first time hearing the roar of the crowd at Maple Leaf Gardens.
You talked about like getting the gear on and how long it takes to get the gear on.
Yeah, get the gear, all of that stuff, the pageantry of, the ritual of putting all that stuff on. Talk to me a little bit, Wayne, about your first memory of your relationship with hockey.
My relationship goes way back. I started skating when I was 2 years old. Okay. Why, how come, I don't know. An uncle passed me down a pair of skates. They were about this big. I still have them. They're in my parents' house.
Really?
My first pair. And I started skating in the backyard of my grandparents lived on a farm, and they had it's called the Nith River, which runs into the Grand River behind her yard, and it would freeze in the wintertime. That's where I started skating. And I'd be out there for hours and hours, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Come in, and this, Will. It's the worst feeling, but the best feeling in the world when you take your skates off and you put them over a heater because they're so frozen. Yeah. And when they start to unthaw, they hurt even more. But you get past that stage where it stops tingling and you just think, okay, I can't wait for tomorrow. So I was like every other kid. And I was saying this, one of my fondest memories, I remember driving to my very first game with my dad. I can remember it for whatever reason, like it was yesterday. I was 6 years old. I tried out for this team, and in those days they had a 10-year-old team. If you made that team, that's where you played. If you didn't make it, you didn't play. And I made the team as a 5-year-old.
Wow.
And the coach said to me, can we have your birth certificate? And my dad gave it to him. He said, well, he can't play. He's not of age. So I remember driving home crying. So the next year they said, okay, we'll let him play. And I played on that team for 5 years. But the point of my story was, my very last game, I was so lucky, and I always say this to athletes, if you can ever play in New York, there's nothing greater, nothing nicer, nothing better than playing for the Rangers or the Yankees or the Knicks. There's something so special about the fans in Manhattan. And I got to play my last game at Madison Square Garden, and it was a 3:00 game. And I always went to the arena like 6 hours before the game.
6 hours?
Oh, yeah, because I could get in the locker room at 2:00 for a 7:30 game. Nobody could call me. Nobody could talk to me. I'd have a coffee. I'd sit on the trainer's table.
That's Jason's dream.
Yeah, and I'd just relax. We didn't have cell phones in those days, so people couldn't get a hold of me. So my very last game, I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. And I drove my dad. I said, you know what? You drove me to my first game. I'm going to drive with you to my last game. So I drove with my dad through Manhattan. We were living on the Upper East Side. Got down to Madison Square Garden. After the game, Janet, my wife, says to me, how was the ride with your dad? I said, Janet, it was great, but it was the worst 10 minutes of my life going to a hockey game. And she said, why is that? And I said, the whole way there, all he kept doing was tapping me on the knee saying, you can play one more year. I said, I'm done. I said, you know what, Dad, I really appreciate it. And so the Rangers were so nice. They bought myself and Janet a new car, and they had my dad drive out in the car from the corner. And as he drives into the car to center ice, I opened the car door to get him out, and he's got his seatbelt on. And I said to my dad, what are you doing with the seatbelt on? And he goes, you just never know. I said, okay.
I've seen the Zamboni driver, and he doesn't look good.
Get him out of the car, and he says to me, isn't this a beautiful car they're giving me? And I said, I hate to tell you, but I got the 1,000 goals, not you. Broke my heart to tell him it's my car, not his. So it all goes back to being a kid, right? There's nothing like it.
That's so cool.
And we will be right back.
SmartLess is supported by Helix. What do you get for your kids? Mattresses. What do you do? Where do you start? You can't ask your kid, hey, what sleep number are you? Hey, what do you do? All that kind of stuff out the window with kids because they're like, I don't know, bed. Me just want sleep bed. That's how my kids talk. So the gang at Helix worked with me to get some Helix Kids mattresses. Let me tell you something. These kids, they are sleeping like little angels. It's unbelievable. They delivered really quickly to the house, and we put them in the bed. First night, this is not an exaggeration, both kids through the night slept a little bit longer than they normally do. It was a very positive experience. Helix Sleep is a premium mattress brand that provides tailored mattresses based on your unique sleep preferences. The Helix lineup includes 14 unique mattresses, including a collection of luxury models, a mattress for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids that I was just talking to you about. Is there anything worse than going to a mattress store and laying down on a mattress that you know that a bunch of people before you have laid their filthy bodies down on with their clothes? Who knows where they've been? You're going to be able to find a mattress that works best for you. That sounds pretty good, considering how much time you spend in your bed. You should never have to compromise on comfort. Helix has mattresses with cooling technology also that help regulate your body temperature, whatever the season. I mean, how many reasons do you need me to give you to get a fantastic mattress that's just going to give you a better sleep? Do you need a million reasons? I don't think so, friend. I think you just need one. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listener. Go to helixsleep.com/smartless. With Helix, better sleep starts now. SmartLess listener, we are supported by the Gemological Institute of America. The Hope Diamond, the Idol's Eye, the Taylor Burton. Some of the most famous diamonds in the world have been graded by the Gemological Institute of America, GIA. They are a long-standing scientific authority on diamonds and creators of the Diamond 4 Cs. Maybe you've heard of them. Cut, clarity, color, and carat. Okay? So, did you know that the Hope Diamond weighs over 45 carats and is rumored to be cursed? Okay? Obviously, the curses are not included in the GIA reports. Otherwise, that would be the 5 Cs, which they had for a while, and they were like, no, it's not scientific enough, so it's the 4 Cs. But I tell you what is listed with the GIA reports, more important information, including whether the diamond is natural or lab-grown. I would want to know that when I'm getting a diamond. GIA grades the most precious diamonds in the world, including yours. Each diamond graded by GIA comes with a report with information about your diamond, including the 4 Cs. Buy with confidence by choosing a diamond graded by the experts at GIA. Find out more at GIA.edu. One more time, that's GIA.edu. We get support from ZipRecruiter. You know, their slogan is ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire, but I think it should be ZipRecruiter, the smartless way to hire. Can't tell if that's catchy. Are you hiring? What type of role are you hiring for? Maybe you need to hire someone to wear many hats, not actual hats, unless it's a hat store. Point is, trying to get somebody who can fill many different roles, that can be challenging. Or you might have a simple position to fill, but it's taking forever to find someone who's a great fit for your company. Whether you need to hire a civil engineer in New York, or a pediatric nurse in Nebraska, or an attorney in Colorado, or even a mascot in Missouri, ZipRecruiter can help you find qualified candidates fast, and now you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/smartless. From accountant to zoologist and everything in between, ZipRecruiter's matching technology finds people with the right experience for your job and presents them to you. And then you can invite your top choices to apply. God, it sounds so civilized. It's so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it now for free at this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/smartless. Once again, that's ziprecruiter.com/smartless. ziprecruiter.com/smartless. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And now, back to the show.
How did your folks handle the fame, obviously, of you? That would probably gave them a great source of pride. But I bet for them too, back home, it was nice. But I bet there were moments where it was really disruptive. It was a huge change in your life, but an enormous change in their life as well. Was that something that they were comfortable with consistently, or did they have trouble with that?
Yeah, my dad was always very comfortable with it. He loved hockey, and he loved talking hockey, loved being around people, kids. He had a kids' hockey tournament for boys and girls till the day he passed, and they still have it going on to this day over Christmas time.
Oh, that's great.
It's one of the great tournaments in all of Canada. It was difficult. At 14 years old, I moved away from home, and people always said, oh, you moved away from home to go play hockey. And I really didn't. I lived in this small town, and there was so much media attention. There was so much hype. We just kind of got together one day and said, you know what, maybe go live in a bigger city. I moved in with a family I had never met before. I drove down there the day before school started. I was starting grade 9, and I met the people, and they became like second parents to me. I lived with them for 2 years.
Wow. Was that in Toronto, Wayne?
Yeah, I moved to Etobicoke. I went to West Humber Collegiate, which is by the airport in Toronto, if you're familiar with Toronto. And it was interesting because I went to high school. None of my friends in high school knew I played hockey. I kept it quiet the whole year. None of the kids at school, I didn't talk about it. Nobody really knew who I was. To this day, one of the kids in that school, him and I are still best friends. And every time I go to Canada, go to Toronto, him and I have dinner together. And he never played a game of hockey in his life. And I always said to him, I said, I can't, you're the only Canadian I've ever met that's never played hockey. And we're best friends. So I lived there for 2 years.
And you lived there because it was a better program for you to be involved in as a hockey player?
I kind of went there to get out of the limelight, to be a normal, everyday kid. To go to school like everyone else and not be doing interviews and not being centered out. Wow. It was interesting because with all the good that came with all that attention, there was some jealousies and some negative that was unfair to a 13, 14-year-old, which my parents thought. Yeah. And that's consequently why I moved to Toronto.
Wow. Well, what Wayne won't tell you is, because he's humble, is that, he's from a town called Brantford, Ontario, which I'm familiar with because my cousins grew up there. And I told Wayne once that my uncle used to have a bookstore in Brantford, so I used to go there all the time. And when I was a little kid, it used to say home of Alexander Graham Bell, right, at Brantford, Ontario. Yeah. Now it's Wayne Gretzky. They're like, screw the guy who invented the telephone. As Wayne Gretzky.
And my acting career was very minimal. And Lorne Michaels had asked me to host Saturday Night Live, and I said, no way. I said, I don't want to act. I can't act. I'm flying to Kentucky Derby, and I'm reading the paper, and it says Wayne Gretzky's going to host Saturday Night Live. And I remember I just pulled the paper down. I looked at my wife, and I go, really? And she goes, one day you're going to thank me for this. So here I am in New York. But the point, and I was so lucky because Mike Myers and Dana Carvey were so good. They just carried me, and John Lovitz. Yeah. But the point of my story was one of the most famous people ever to come from Brantford was Phil Hartman. Yes. And I got to know him that week during Saturday Night Live. He was a genius. He was a nice man. And he always said to me, I'm from Brantford too. And I go, I know, Phil. I love it.
Wayne, when you were a kid, when you were living with that family that you didn't know, I want to know about all the awkwardness. I did this Kenny Rogers Christmas tour, thank you, many, many years ago.
Nobody applauded.
That's okay, I can still hear.
We'll put it in later.
People. and on the tour, a couple places we had to stay. They broke us up, and we had to stay with families. It was so awkward. It was like, hello, you're sleeping in other people's bed. You're eating you don't know them. I mean, isn't that weird?
It was very weird at the beginning. The first month, I cried myself to sleep every night.
I'll bet.
And of course, my parents could hardly afford to call me. So my dad worked for Bell Telephone, and I knew every day at 4:30, one of his friends at Bell Telephone would get him a free line. He could call me to see how I was doing. And I'd always work my nerve up at 4:30 and say, I'm doing great. I love it. It's no problem. I'm getting accustomed to this. I like it.
How old were you?
I was 14.
Yeah, 14.
And so here's the interesting part. We became very close to the day they both passed. They were like second parents to me. I would always bring them out to games, whether I played in LA or New York. They'd always come in, treated me like their own son. I had a true love with them and for them, and they did for me. And I said at the time, and as I went through my career, I said, I'm never going to do this to one of my kids. So what happens? I named my son Ty because I love baseball after Ty Cobb.
Yeah.
And at the age of 10, he looked at me and he said, Dad, I hate baseball. And I went, okay, isn't this great? So he wanted to be this hockey player. So at 15 years old, I said to him, I said, now listen, I'm going to tell you something that your grandfather would tell you. If you want to pursue this, you got to leave the West Coast. You got to go to Minnesota, Boston. I said, you can go live with Grandma and Grandpa in my hometown. And then we decided, okay, maybe he can go live with my mom and dad. And then my mom, unfortunately, came down with cancer. And I thought, okay, I don't want my 15-year-old son to have to deal with this and go through it. So he moved to Minnesota. He went to a prep school in Minnesota. He loved it. At the end of the year, he said, you know what? I want to come back home. I just want to play hockey for fun. I want to continue my education, go to college. And I said, that's great. When you're 30 years old, you'll look back and say, you know what? I gave it an honest effort. I don't regret anything I did. He loved the school, loved everything about it. He moved home, and I said to him one day, I said, what was one of the things that really bothered you about moving there and playing there, other than missing your mother? He said, I got tired of every guy that I played against saying, you're not as good as your dad. So I said to him, so what would you say to them? And he said, it was pretty easy. I just say, I got news for you. You're not as good as he is either.
Perfect. Wayne, one of the things that I just sort of know, I've noticed before, but it just kind of came into focus, listening to you tell a story is that, obviously one of the things being who you are and having this illustrious career and all the things that you did, it's brought you all the way around the world. You've met all sorts of people in all sorts of walks of life. And you talk about going and living with a family when you're 14, whatever. You've been around people your whole life. And you have a gift for talking to people and really listening to people and really engaging with them. And you are and more than just an ambassador for hockey, you're just listening to you talk and the way that you talk to your kids. I don't know. There's something I really admire about the way that you relate to human beings and the way you connect with other human beings. I think it's awesome. And is that something that was your relationship like that were your parents like that? Did they bestow that upon you? I know your dad was a really gregarious guy. He's the most famous Leaf fan of all time next to me. But,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, where did that is that where that came from, do you think?
No, I'll tell you what. I was the shyest kid you could ever meet. I was quiet. My dad used to say to me, the good Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you talk. And I lived by that. I was this kid who was in school that if you had to get up and give a speech, I'd be sweating bullets and like every other 14, 15-year-old. When I moved to Toronto, and this is the rest of my story, they had one son, and he was a character. And he was 2 years older than I was, and he was this outgoing, full of life, energy, young man, and we're still close today. And he really helped me sort of mature and come out of my shell as far as talking to people and talking with people, listening to people. And I just think it was a progression. And I just learned, I always say to people, when you meet your idol, and listen, there's been a lot of times where you meet somebody and you go, wow, that guy was having a bad day. He wasn't as nice as I thought he was going to be, or that person wasn't as great as I had him built up in my mind. Yeah. And my childhood idol was Gordie Howe from the time I could think of Gordie Howe, 3 years old. I used to even go to the barbershop and say, can I get a Gordie Howe haircut? That's how much I loved Gordie Howe. And cool. Through hockey, him and I became...
for a Planet of the Apes haircut sometimes.
You got it.
And through hockey, Gordie and I became best friends. We were very close.
Wow.
And he was like a second dad to me.
What about like interviews, though, like to Will's question?
Yeah. I got comfortable with interviews at 14, 15, 16. It became...
Yeah, before that, you were like petrified of speaking.
I was scared to death. Head would be down, kind of shy, stutter a lot, all that kind of stuff. And you know who I met at a young age in my career that was incredibly helpful with me off the ice was a great Canadian, Alan Thicke. He loved the game of hockey. Yeah. He was energetic. He was smart. And he would help me do things. And he would help me. And he always say to me, Wayne, instead of giving the standard interview that an athlete gives, here's things that I think can help you. And here's kind of things you can chat about and talk about. So Alan was a huge influence in my life. Wonderful man. As a matter of fact, I was staying at Alan's house the day I got traded to the LA Kings in August of 1988. I was down there for a week holiday, and I got a phone call. You've been traded to LA. And I said, Alan, you don't mind if I kick you out of your house? I'm moving in.
Now, wait, you guys
are like... a special guy. Sean, I know you knew Alan, too, and I did, too, to our friend Jimmy Burrows. What a sweet
He's the
guy
greatest and super funny, and I've played golf twice in my life, and one of them was with Jimmy and Alan.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, Sean, can I also tell you this? Wayne, I'll tell you this. Yeah. In summer of '88, when you got traded, I was doing a summer theater you were playing professional hockey at the highest level and owned it every and I was at a theater program in London, England. So anyway,
for you.
But when I found out the news, and there was no internet, it just came across on the news. And it was such big news, it was in the UK, and it was like in the evening paper or whatever. And my buddy and I found this Canadian pub down in Covent Garden, and we went to the Canadian, and we just had about 30 beers because we were like, Wayne's going to America. And as a Canadian...
It was sad, right?
I had a wonderful London story. I was there, is it Hyde Park, right?
Yeah.
They have Canada Day there, which is this huge day that they have all these Canadians come down. They set up these ball hockey rinks. There's about 6 of them. Teams sign up. So all these Canadians flock down there. They have Canadian French fries and fish and chips. They have Canadian bands that come out, Tragically Hip, and they play during the day. So I'm standing there with my 2 boys, and I said, let's go watch this hockey game. So my 2 boys and I, we get behind the net. Now, these guys are intense. They're older men. They're probably drinking beer, running around in their shoes, whacking and hacking each other. And it's really intense. And there's this guy standing beside me with a Team Canada Gretzky jersey on. And I turned to the guy, and I'm trying to make conversation. I was going to sign his autograph or get a picture with him. And I said, hey, this game's pretty intense. And he just keeps staring straight out. He goes, yeah, this is crazy. And I said, are you having fun today? And he goes, yeah, this is unbelievable. And I said to my 2 boys, I said, let's go. And they go, aren't you going to sign that for him? I said, I give him 2 chances to turn to me. I'm not giving him a third. We're out of here. And that was my London story.
Yeah, give me a break. I'm trying to watch the game.
Now, I'm just back to the actual sport of hockey and me. Like, you know what, Wayne? If me and you had dinner, I would have a bunch of different questions than Jason will probably. So these are one of my dumb questions.
A lot of musical theater stuff, Wayne. I don't know if it should probably be more of a snack than a meal.
No, like just the art of hockey playing, okay? So the coordination, to me, not knowing anything about it, looks impossible. It's like playing the drums. You need your feet and your arms and your hands and your brain and everything. And so, you're going to laugh at this question.
No.
Is there any, because of the athleticism, are there any guys who go from hockey to figure skating or figure skating to hockey? Because they're both like...
God, I love you so much.
You watch these hockey guys.
I love you. I just
you watch the hockey guys, like, when you could do other things because you have the skill of skating. You know what I mean?
Actually, it's a really good question. Because one of the things that my wife, who was a dancer, always says that she would always say to me, you should do ballet because ballet is going to help your hockey. And I go, I don't know. When I take my skates off, the rhythm just leaves my body. I said, ballet wouldn't be good for me.
Yeah.
But there are guys that start off in figure skating that at 9, 10, 11 switch over. It's probably easier to go that way than to play ice hockey and then go into figure skating. And I'll tell you why. In ice hockey, you're skating more like downhill skiing. So you're kind of sitting on your quads. Yeah, you're squatting. And the blades are actually flat. So you're kind of moving like that. Whereas figure skating, because of the toe picks, you're more straight up and you're more... I guess,
erect.
proper, right?
Yeah.
And so it's two different sort of skating formulas, so it's tough to go from one to the other. But
okay,
it's a real good question, actually.
Wayne, I want to ask you one question, not to get too deep in the weeds on hockey, because these guys won't get it, but I have to clear this up once and for all. Back in the day, Wayne was one of the first guys in hockey to wear a Jofa helmet. How did that happen? Yeah. I've always wanted to know about the Jofa.
Yeah. So I don't know if these guys know, but when I turned pro when I was 17, and my dad said, because he had to sign the contract to validate it because I wasn't 18. Mm-hmm. And he said two things.
That's crazy.
I'll sign this, but you're going to finish 12th grade. I don't care what you do. You're going to go to school till you're 18 years old. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So my first practice, and in those days, the players would come to the younger guys or the new guys and say, hey, take your helmet off. You shouldn't play with a helmet. Because that's kind of what guys did back then. Mm-hmm. So here I am. I took my helmet off, and my dad's at my first exhibition game. We're playing in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm out there skating around, and all of a sudden, my dad comes running down the stairs at the arena and yelling at me, get your goddamn helmet back on. So I'm turning to one of the guys, and I said, my dad said I have to put my helmet on. So we go in the locker room, and I get this helmet, and one of the guys said, Wayne, wear this Jofa helmet. It's like not wearing a helmet. And I was like, okay. So I get the helmet on, and I wore it my whole career. I was comfortable with it. I got traded or sold to Edmonton. I got traded or sold a couple times in my career. For a guy who played a lot of years, I got sold a lot. So I get sold to Edmonton, and I'm going to high school in Edmonton. And the principal doesn't know who I am. Now, Edmonton travels more than other teams, and so I've gone on the road for 5 days or 7 days.
Wait, you were going to high school in Edmonton when you were playing there?
Yeah, in the WHA. And the principal calls me in like early January. He said, young man, you're going to be a nothing. You're going to amount to nobody. You're schooling this and that. I should kick you out. And I said to him, look, give me till January 26th. And he goes, what's that? I go, I turn 18 January 26th. If I'm still messing up, you can call me in and kick me out of the school. So the guy goes, okay, I'll do that for you. So January 26th, and I used to pick up one of my teammates' daughter was in my classes. We were the same age. So we're driving to school, and I'm kind of singing to the music in the car. I'm really excited. And she goes, well, you're pretty happy today. I said, yeah, I'm quitting school. I'm going in and telling that principal I'm done. I walked in the principal's office. I said, you know what? I just want to thank you for not kicking me out of school. I quit. And that was hysterical. It. I walked out.
You can't fire me.
And I lived up to what my dad wanted.
No.
So,
way.
Listener, there's a physical element to hockey. It's a contact sport, and sometimes things can get rough and tumble, and there can be fights and stuff like that. Wayne was famously, kind of above that fray. Never really got into a whole lot of fights, but a lot of the heavies on the other side would love to try to get him into that because they want him off the ice. But you always managed to avoid it. Was there ever a time in your career when everybody was kind of the same size before they got huge, where you kind of tried to incorporate that into part of your game and went, wow, that hurt. That my face is real sore. And you just was like, you know what? I'm just going to be the finesse guy that I was born to be.
And what is the worst injury?
I don't know about you guys, but if I get punched in the nose, I start crying. You know how your eyes start watering? I'm always amazed at these guys that go back and forth, and they just drop their gloves. They go to the penalty box. They sit there for 5 minutes, and they come back out, and they go, wow. And, I think I had one fight in my career, and this is a really funny story. I won Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year, which to me was one of my favorite awards that I ever won. It was such an honor to get that. So the publisher of Sports Illustrated flies to Edmonton to present this award, and he's at center ice, and he's talking about my sportsmanship and what he brings to the game, and he's going on and on. I'm in the second shift of that game, and I got into a fight. The only fight I've ever had.
Oh, my God.
I come back to the bench, and not one guy said, good fight or good job. They all said, what were you thinking? And the guy who was from Minnesota, Neil Broughton, and him and I still laugh about it today because it was so silly. And my buddy, who was a tough guy at the time, one of the tougher guys ever to play.
Who's that?
Dave Semenko. And he turns to me and he says, Wayne, you got 5 minutes for cat fighting. That was my last fight.
Was it a pretty funny fight? Was there a clear winner?
It was nothing. It was kind of like one of these, right?
Yeah.
And one night we were playing in Chicago, and this guy, and I had enough of him, and I kind of grabbed him, and he threw me down on the ground, and he's standing over top of me like this, and I'm looking at our bench, and there's 5 players with legs over top, like they're riding a horse, right?
Yeah.
Ready to jump on the ice. And he's standing over the top like this, and he goes, "Don't move, I'm not going to hit you." And I said, "Don't worry, I'm not moving." So the referee kind of got in there. I came back to the bench, and I said, "All right, he could have beat the crap out of me. Nobody's allowed to touch that guy." So I said, if he would have hit me, he would have had a couple more fights before the night was over.
Oh, yeah. And it's the punching of the helmets, too, that I mean, they never seem to really hurt their hands, and they're just slugging these helmets.
do.
Yeah?
Now they have visors on, too.
They have visors, and then if you start a fight, there's like the whole code that if you keep your visor on, that you're a jerk because you're going to let the other guy hurt himself. Wayne, I remember.
Will knows this.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Will knows this. There's a few guys that were Hall of Fame type players that also could fight. The question you were asking me, one of his buddies, Brendan Shanahan, Mark Messier, those guys were not only Hall of Famers at what they did, but they were also as tough as anybody who ever played the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Wayne, Shanny once called me about a month after he retired, and it was like a Wednesday afternoon, and he was kind of blue, and I said, "What's going on? Are you all right?" And he goes, I just realized I'm never going to fight again. I said, "Buddy, you're 40." I said, "You're 40. You're 42. You shouldn't be fighting anymore anyway." What are you talking about?
And he's genuinely disappointed. He
was. He was. Like he was just kind of bummed out. You know. So Wayne, your life changes. You move out of the house when you're 14. You go play in Toronto. You play. How many years of junior did you play? Just one, right? Or not even? You played for the Sioux.
Yeah, I played 1 year in Sault Ste. Marie as a 16-year-old.
As a 16-year-old. I mean, which is, you guys have to understand, it's so crazy what Wayne did. He was just ahead. Like, he played on teams that were, he was the young, as he told you, the youngest by about 4 years. And the parents of the other teams were still mad at him because he was scoring so many goals.
I played in Sault Ste. Marie, and if you've never been to Sault Ste. Marie, it's just above Sioux, Michigan. So it's about 8 hours north by car from Toronto. And the snow is about 6 feet deep early December till late March. And we flew around on a DC-3. Now,
no way.
Flying is one thing, but try getting in a DC-3 and the pilot comes back and says, "We need 2 of the heavier guys to go to the front and 2 of the lighter guys to go to the back."
Yeah.
So I used to ride to pretty much every game like this.
Yeah.
And it can only fly at 9,000 feet, right? And you're right in the middle of those snow clouds going into Sault Ste. Marie every trip. And what was the singer, Ricky Valens? That's all I kept thinking was, this is not good. This DC-3 is not fun. But I ended up having a fun time there.
No way.
We'll be right back.
SmartLess is sponsored by BetterHelp. Everything you get in life comes with a manual. Get a new car, comes with a manual. You get a microwave, it comes with a manual. You buy a television, it comes with a manual. Everything in life comes with a manual except life. Anytime you come up against anything, wouldn't it be nice to have a manual that you could refer to? Something comes up and you could say, "Hang on a second." You'd flip to that page and you go, "Okay, this is how I deal with this." Unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user manual. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. You think you've got a good handle on how to talk to people until you get into a place where you feel like you're not able to really articulate what's going on or what sort of complex position you have on something, and you're kind of stuck. You don't know, you don't have the words, you don't have the language, you don't have the tools to work your way through that or to get that language to deal with something, to express yourself about a tough situation you're in. That's totally normal. Well, guess what? That's what therapy does. Working with a therapist helps you cut through all that and really bring into focus the things that you're trying to talk about and work on. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist, and if things aren't clicking, You can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/smartless. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/smartless.
SmartLess is brought to you in part by Nationwide. Pet sweaters. I love them. You love them. Your pet may feel differently. Nonetheless, sweater weather is here, and that means the holiday season is in full swing. Big holiday celebrations can be fun for both pets and humans, but you need to be careful. Our friends at Nationwide have put together some holiday safety tips for you and your pets. While it seems natural to give a dog a bone, bones, especially turkey bones, are super dangerous for dogs, just so you know. They may be pretty, but some holiday decorative plants are poisonous, even deadly. A single leaf from any lily variety is lethal to cats. Other plants, like mistletoe, can cause pretty serious stomach upset. When the unexpected happens, Nationwide is there to protect your pets from Thanksgiving to New Year's Day and every day thereafter. Get reimbursed for eligible expenses related to injuries, illnesses, and more. Go to petinsurance.com/smartless to get a quote today. Nationwide is on your side. And back to the show.
But wait, I was going to say, so you go through all that stuff, Wayne, and then you go into the NHL. Well, first you go to the WHA with before that Indianapolis, then Edmonton, the WHA. I've always wanted to. This 2 questions, I guess.
Yep.
Playing in the WHA was because it was a rival league. They tried to start up. It was a startup league, Sean, to try to rival the NHL, and then they ended up merging a few teams. Was that
kind of like the Blitz?
Well, it was kind of like the ABA in the basketball. Was it an advantage to you a little bit playing a little bit in the WHA before the NHL?
Yeah, no question. The WHA wasn't as good as the NHL, and they were stealing all the young players. So there was like 12 of us under the age of 20 that signed. At the end of that year, the NHL said, okay, we got to come together. So 4 teams dismantled and 4 teams went into the NHL and they merged. It was a good league. Was it as good as the NHL? Absolutely not. But it was a good stepping stone for me to get 1 year under my belt, living with men, playing with men, traveling like the men do.
I could do that.
Boy, in Edmonton, it was a lot of travel. Trust me, we were a long way from. I think our closest trip was 2.5 hours to Winnipeg.
Oh my God!
So, but it was a good. It was a good stepping stone for me.
It was a good stepping stone. So you do that. But my point is this: from a young age, and then you go in and you're thrust into this, and you explode on this. I mean, I know a lot of your stats. I'm not reading anywhere off the top of my head. I remember the season when you scored 215 points. I remember, all of it to me was just incredible. But for you, with that came a lot of responsibility and a lot of money, and all of a sudden you're thrust into the business of hockey. Right. Were you prepared for that aspect of superstardom?
Some ways I was, in other ways I wasn't. My priority and my focus was just to play hockey. I let everything around me just kind of be itself, and I never really concerned myself with things like that. I really got more heavily involved when I went to LA. When I got traded to LA, I remember we were driving by the tennis courts on Van Nuys Boulevard. And I remember as we were driving by, I said to my wife, I said, if this was Canada, there'd be 15 kids out there playing ball hockey right now. That's just the way it is. And 2 years later, I went by that same tennis courts, and there was a big sign that said, no roller hockey allowed. Wow. And I said, you know what? Hockey's coming a long way. More and more kids are playing it. It's growing. It's advancing. And so I learned more about the marketing and the business side of the game when I went to LA. And then Michael Eisner used to come to all the games, and he loved hockey. And Michael decided, okay, I'm going to do this movie, The Mighty Ducks. He did the movie. Nobody thought they would ever have an NHL team called the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. And so he was a huge part of the success of the National Hockey League going to another level. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. San Jose, and then, of course, Denver and Dallas and Phoenix.
When you do something as great as you do, and for as long as you do, it becomes an addiction. I'm sure. Yeah. Like you can't wait to get on the ice. You can't like you were describing, right?
Yeah. Listen, when people ask me all the time, do you miss hockey? Yeah, I'm sick that I can't play, but I'm 61 and I'm slow and I'm not good. But every day I get up and say, gosh, I wish I could play.
Yeah, but I mean, so when you pass an ice rink or it's winter time, do you still go on the ice and not play, but just experience that?
My son does some hockey schools, and I'll get on the ice periodically, and I don't really skate. I just kind of get out there.
Yeah.
But I used to play in a lot of, charity events, charity games. People would say, hey, Wayne, will you jump in? I go, yeah, I'll play a couple shifts. And I came home one time, it was about 7 years ago. I was about 54 years old, and I put my bag down, and I turned to Janet, and I said, you know what? It's the last time I'm ever going to skate. And she goes, what are you talking about? And I said, it was the first time in my life that I was scared on the ice, that if I fell, I could seriously get hurt. And I said, wow. You can't play hockey like that. You can't play any sport like that, right? And I just said, you know what? I don't want to push it. I've had a good run. I love the game. Everything I have in my life is because of hockey. I don't need to be breaking my leg because I think I can still play.
What was your secret to what seems to my eyes, you seem like such a happy, peaceful, content guy. What was your secret to the successful transition from being exposed to an opportunity day in and day out for so many years to excel and dominate? When it stopped, I'm sure you knew there was no way to be able to replace that. Did you just lay some groundwork so that was a smooth transition into what seems to me a very content life that you're living now, or was there an adjustment that was uncomfortable?
No, there's an adjustment. I think that any athlete who said there was no adjustment is lying because you have this passion and love. And it's like going to school. I can remember we used to start school the day after Labor Day. And we knew we were in school all year till early June. And that's when we got out. Hockey was the same thing. I knew I was going to training camp the day after Labor Day. Yeah. And I was at their mercy every single day of practice or travel or games. And I did that all year. And then you get your 6 or 8 weeks off in the summertime to be with friends and family. And I would say this all the time to people. If you're going to be a good athlete in any sport, you have to be extremely selfish. And I mean that in the most positive way. Selfish, I mean the night before a game to eat properly, to get your proper rest, the day of a game to focus and get ready. And the people around you, your family, your wife, your kids, your friends, your parents, they all have to be on that same page. And I was lucky. They were all on that page. They understood when I was playing, that was my life.
Yeah, they set you up for success. This is just great.
Yeah, and then when I was done, I was lucky. I had a great family. My kids are wonderful. There's new challenges, right? There's new things on the horizon. But I say this all the time. Nothing's going to ever replace that high that I got being a hockey player. And that's why you still see guys who are 45 or 55. They play pickup hockey on Sundays. They still think back to their childhood, right? Yeah. This was so much fun. I don't want to give it up. I want to still keep playing, even though they can't play, even though they're not very good anymore. But they're still out there because the game itself is it's like a drug. It just pulls you in. If you have that passion for it, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. I had that thing, Wayne, for years. I haven't been back to Toronto at Christmas in a few years now, but I would go back and play shinny with the guys I grew up with, and I could go down to the rink like Ramsden Park in Toronto, right across from Rosedale subway station, right off Yonge Street, and I could go and see the same guys who play shinny there like on a Sunday or in the afternoons that I've played my whole life with. And I can tell you something, and as a guy who did not play at a high level at all, the feeling I'd get from walking from my car to that little dressing room that's run by the Parks Department of Toronto to put my skates on, I couldn't do it fast enough. I can't get out there fast enough because I love the game so much that I can access that memory now, which is, but I wanted to get into this thing, which is, and tell Sean and Jason one of my favorite stories. I mean, I have so many favorite stories about you that I've heard that are part of the legend, but one is there's a record in hockey, guys, that Rocket Richard first broke, which was 50 goals in 50 games, which was almost unheard of. So he sets the mark. Wayne had, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne, but you had 45 goals in 38 games leading up to a game, right? So he had 45, so he had to get 5 more goals, but he only played in 38 games. And your roommate at the time was Kevin Lowe. the great Kevin Lowe, who was your teammate, and Wayne says to him on this day, he goes, and Kevin Lowe tells the story, I'm going to get 5 goals tonight. And he called the shot, and he went out, and Wayne scored 5 goals to score 50 goals in 39 games.
No,
that's amazing.
Way.
Yeah.
Is that the most ever?
Yeah, it wasn't from bragging. It was more a sense of, if I get this close and don't do it, I'm going to be known as a slug. So I felt more pressure to get to that 50 as fast as I could. And it just happened that night. I got 5, so I was pretty excited.
It just happened. How did that feel, though? What was that feeling knowing that you did that?
That poor goaltender.
I don't know. It was special. It was unique. I felt honored. All that goes with that, right? And I look back at it now, I was a kid just having fun, right? I didn't know any better. I was 22 years old, just doing what I love doing, and you just go play, right?
What do you think, Wayne, is like the physics behind something you understand and you understand more than other players? Like, for example, that example, I went into this game, I scored 50 points in how many games? What is it you do? You don't have to brag, or it's not egotistical, but just technically speaking, what is it you do? What is it you have that you don't think other people do? You know, that you can engage
Wayne, before you answer that, to set you up a little bit more, Sean, to kind of like, in addition to that, I remember asking a few people what it was like playing against Wayne, and they would say, he had a sense for the game. We always talked about Wayne. You had a sense for it, and because I want to know about this, because they'd say all of a sudden the play would be over here and Wayne would be over there, and all of a sudden the play would end up over there. So did you feel like you always had a sense for how the plays were going to unfold? Like, did you? I don't know.
What is that sixth sense? Like, it's almost like a quarterback in football. It's like, how do they have that? The great ones. How do they have that ability to
he is the great one. So.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I think a couple things. First of all, I had a tremendous amount of respect for my opponents. I always played each and every guy like they were better than I was, and that I had to be at my best to be able to play well. The game itself, when I started talking to you guys earlier, when I made that team at 6 years old with 10-year-olds, then at 14, I played with 20-year-olds. Yeah. And at 17, I played with men. Yeah. And the one thing I didn't ever have to do, I was never big. I was always the smallest guy. I was always on the smaller side. I wasn't physically strong. I wasn't the fastest. So my dad always taught me at a young age, you better be smart out there. You better play chess. You better be one step ahead, because that's how you're going to angle to be as good or better than they are. And so I never had to change my game from the time I was 6 years old till when I retired at 39. I still mentally focused and tried to play the same way. Yeah. So I would say it was my hockey sense, my sixth sense on the ice, that was the difference in my skill level compared to maybe some other guys.
Yeah, it's just interesting how some athletes like yourself are more just honed in than others.
Sean has that in the kitchen. He'll be like, I know that there's some Chex Mix in that cupboard, and he opens it, and it's filled with Chex Mix.
It's kind of amazing. Yeah.
Next to the Bugles.
He mixed with Bugles, and he's got a sense. So now, first of all, Wayne. Of course, Wayne is known as the Great One, and which I can't imagine there ever being a better nickname to be given to a guy ever of all time. But now you have this new company, this clothing company, Greatness Wins, and I see you're wearing
a
t-shirt.
T-shirt on. Yeah. I was wondering what that was.
Talk to me a little bit about how this partnership came about and what it's all about.
Well, I think we got lucky in the sense that Derek Jeter, who was running the Florida Marlins, decided to take a step back and say, you know what, I was helpful in building this Nike shoe line when he was building baseball cleats in the mid-'90s. And he just kind of dove all in and said, I'm really excited about this company, that, I want to be part of something that starts from the ground floor, and called me and asked me if I wanted to jump on board with him. And of course, anytime Derek Jeter calls you, you take that phone call and say, okay, I'm definitely in. And as I always tell people, nobody told me how to play hockey. I'm not going to tell them how to make apparel, but I'm really excited about it. They're great guys. They're wonderful. And it's an honor for me to be part of it. And plus, I got a free T-shirt today.
Yeah, so. and thank you for sending us all that stuff. That's so nice. We'll be looking for it.
Jason loves getting free stuff. I don't know if you heard him talking about the Think bars.
We all like free stuff. It's free. It's for me, and I'll take all three.
Can people get it now? Is it up and running now?
Yeah, it's online.
Yeah,
all right here. Greatness wins.
Greatness wins.
It's exciting.
Greatness wins.
Yeah, golf shirts. It's just nice apparel. So we're really excited.
Let's go.
Jason, golf shirts.
Golf shirts. Me like
you know, you had mentioned Gordie Howe, and I heard the great story recently from a mutual friend of mine and Jason's. And I don't know, Wayne, if you know the great Skip Bronson, hilarious dude. And Skip told me a story when he was involved way back in the day with the Hartford Whalers. He says to Gordie, he says, Sean, by the way, Gordie Howe is one of the all-time great hockey players, Wayne's idol, and a lot of many people's idol. Sure. And he was a tremendous. He said Skip says to him, he says, Gordie, how are you still playing in your 50s? He played into his 50s because he played with his sons, right?
51.
51. He says, how did you play so long? And he said, I never picked anything up. And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, I never picked up a package, an envelope. If anything came in, I'd say no. He goes, because I always knew that's how people injured themselves. So I never.
That's funny.
I'll tell you, Gordie was so wonderful. I'll give you a great story. We went to the White House in 1980 for the NHL All-Star Game. And Gordie and I were fortunate enough, we sat at the same table as President Reagan. And I was a kid. I was 18 years old. I was sweating. I had a three-piece suit on. It was probably too tight. And I was sitting there, and I turned to Gordie. There was like 6 forks and 7 knives. And I go, Gordie, what fork do we use? He goes, I'll tell you what. I'll watch him. You watch me. And so Gordie watched President Reagan. And then so that night we got home, and my dad says to me, how was it having lunch at the White House? And I said, I'll tell you how great Gordie Howe is. And he said, how is that? And I said, I heard the President of the United States turn to Gordie Howe and say, you know what, Gordie? I don't trust those effing Russians. I said, I heard the president swear.
Really?
That's how cool Gordie Howe is.
Yeah, that's how cool Gordie was.
That's cool.
Oh, man. Wayne, listen, you've played a lot of games. Who is the toughest goalie you ever played? I've always wanted to know that.
Billy Smith.
Billy Smith, eh?
Yeah, he was, because they're all so good. They're such great athletes, and they're better athletes today than we were 40 years ago. But Billy Smith, the game on the line, pressure, and the thing that made him so good is he hated me and I hated him. But that was when we played, right? And now that we're done and over, we have a mutual respect for each other, and he was, no question, one of the greatest ever.
Did you ever roll one off his back? That was one of my favorite moves that you did. You know, listener, he'd get behind the net, and the goalie would have his back to him, and he'd flip it up over the net and roll it off the back of goalie's back into the net.
No, he was too good and too smart for that.
He was wild.
People don't do that anymore, right?
If I was back there, he'd be swinging his stick at me. So
he was the great goalie for the New York Islanders, and when Wayne played with Edmonton, and they had been the dominant dynasty before Wayne and the Oilers came and took over, fought the mantle off, right, from those guys.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
epic hockey. Wayne, you made so many people's day over the years. You've been such an incredible ambassador for the sport of hockey, and you've done so much, and it's such a thrill to have you. Honestly,
it's great to meet you.
I could talk to you all day. I love every time I run into you.
Really respect all three of you guys, and you got a great show. Even they're talking about it on NBC from what I heard earlier.
Let's go play some golf, and we'll finish up this conversation.
All right, you guys. Listen, I loved it, and Will, keep promoting our game. You do a great job for the game of hockey.
Oh.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Wayne.
Nice
Wayne. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, buddy. Bye. Oh, and he slams the laptop.
Slam shot.
Only the great one knows the great
He's
stuff.
He's the great one.
Know?
God. Yeah, I know. I don't know. Like it was really cool. First of all, I said I know who he is, and of course,
look at this.
I don't know what's that.
We got chills.
Yeah, I got chills.
Yeah,
wait, were you freaking out, Will? Because that is like an idol
because
of
he
yours?
closed the laptop, or because he told you you're doing great for the hockey?
Just anything he says to me, and every time he remembers my name, I know. I'm like, I'm just going to end it now.
Isn't that crazy, you guys? Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
The three of us have been in this business a long time. We've met a lot of fancy people. But it will never be lost on me how fortunate we are, and it's thanks to you, listener, that we have this opportunity, this platform to like talk to these people that are huge heroes to us, and we get to just speak like on a peer level and like shoot the shit with them. It's just I feel so fortunate.
Jason, I really think that people are able to get how much we do respect that position that we have by virtue of the fact that your mouth is full of food. That really sells. That really sells how appreciative
only
you are.
With the finest protein bars made. The name is Think.
So wait, you know what's so great about Wayne though? Like he's first of all not only a great hockey player but a great storyteller. Like you could say I had a BLT and he'd be like, oh my God, I have the greatest story about a BLT, and it's enthralling. It's like I was listening to every single word. Like wow.
Yeah, he does. He has such a knowledge, and I meant it. He is such a. I've seen him in so many different scenarios. I've seen him in. The first time I met him, I was on a plane to Toronto, and Archie was about, I don't know, 5 or 6 or something, and we were flying up there, just the two of us, and Wayne gets on last to get on the plane, and he's like 2 rows in front of us. Wayne comes back, and he says, he comes over to me. He's Wayne Gretzky, and I'm too nervous to say anything, and we're flying up, right? I mean, he's Canadian royalty, and he says, hey, Will, blah, blah, blah. I said, hey, nice to meet you. Hey, this is my son, Archie. Archie, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. And then he's got his boarding pass, and he writes his phone number. He goes, give me a call. I'm going to Toronto, but give me a call, and let's hang out, blah, blah, blah. I go, no problem. And I got to turn to my 5 or 6-year-old and be like, I just got Wayne Gretzky's phone number.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Anyway, I've now subsequently met him, a bunch of times over the years, and he's always such a, and he never deviates from that, and he talks to everybody, and he's such a sweet, kind, open, generous guy. To quote Jason, generous with his time, and there's something about him that is just I don't know.
And his ability was always so clear. I mean, you could, even if you had the worst seat in the house, you could see how good he is. You would not need binoculars.
SmartLess is 100% organic and artisanally handcrafted by Bennett Barbaco, Michael Grant Terry, and Rob Armjarf. SmartLess. Our next episode will be out in a week wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can listen to it right now early on Amazon Music, or early and ad-free by subscribing to Wondery Plus in Apple Podcasts or the Wondery app.